Hey everybody, welcome back to Bug Proletariat 40K. I just checked before I started streaming this video or recording this video and saw we're over 100 subscribers to the channel. That's really awesome. I appreciate everybody for subscribing and listening to my content as I go through my journey this year, is trying to see how high I can get in the ITC rankings with GSC. As you can see, some of the pictures cycling through on the screen right now are of my tournament over the weekend, the Battle to End Alzheimer's at Tables and Towers in Westminster, Maryland. The event was amazing, a great time. 98 players came out to support Alzheimer's research charity that my buddy JC organized the whole thing, TO'd the whole thing, and the owner of the store, Anthony, graciously hosted it, had awesome prize support. As you can see there were a ton of beautiful armies. I don't know why Hellbrick is sideways, that annoys me. I'll fix that for the next videos. But anyway, there were a ton of beautiful armies there, and I had a great time. I think all said and done, it was like $15,000 raised for the Alzheimer's Research Foundation that they were donating to. They did some awesome stuff to generate even more donations because all of the buy-in, your ticket, went straight to charity, and then as well as you could pie people in the face. I know JC got pied in the face a couple times. I know TJ Lanningham got pied in the face. And then they did some raffles and stuff, which was really cool. So a ton of people came out of there with prizes. I just can't say enough how awesome the event was. And I can't wait till next year's. Oh, that's the pie thing, which, they were throwing pies. That's what was happening there. So as far as my GSC and the rundown of my games, I went 2 wins, a tie, and 2 losses. So exactly 50%. Not quite the 3 and 2 I was trying to get to. If you want to check out the rundown of some of my games, it's made my latest article over on Frontline Gaming. It kind of breaks down in a short summary of how the games went and how I think it played. I was going to do a little more in-depth video about how things were going as far as, or how my games went, but now I think with the data slate, that really doesn't matter, and I'm going to talk about how I think GSC is going to move forward in this beautiful new meta. Just to start out, I'm really pumped and excited to see the changes that GW came out with like a month early. They recognized there was a real big issue in the meta as far as Tau, Custodes, and Harlequins most recently, and they fixed it pretty quickly. We won't know how much it is fixed until we get some games in, but I mean, Custodes are real hurt bad, and Tau's indirect got nerfed a lot along with some of their extra AP, and the Harlequin stuff went up in points. They'll still be very good, but we'll see how that works out for them. But I was also surprised how they brought up all like power armored factions with the armored contempt rule. They buffed guard a lot. With my buddy is a guard player, and I know he's really pumped to get back on the table when he was kind of down in the dumps about the game. So, and then even Death Guard was buffed by giving the Terminators OBSEC, which is huge. It's really just nice to see that they didn't just hit those factions. They hit them, I feel like, the right way, hard enough. Unlike the Drakari nerfs last year, which were little by little, which we had like 8 months of still terrible Drakari play. They hit these armies hard and at the same time buffed up other armies. As far as GSC specific things that I think will really affect us, obviously Armored Contempt is going to make anything in Power Armor just that much harder to kill. So it's important to note, because I've seen some people talk about, and even I, when I first read it, just thought they get just like a +1 armor save, basically. But really, they just ignore 1 AP. 1 point of AP. So if you have AP3, it's going to count as AP2. If you have AP2, it counts as AP1. AP1, they're just going to get that 3-up save or 2-up save if they're Terminators. So stuff that's AP1 is now not doing anything, and even if they're in cover, it's doing less than anything. So I feel like AP, you're going to want a lot of AP3 things in your army, which is good because we have that. We have even AP4 close combat weapons. And we'll talk about kind of how you can integrate that in your list a little later down, Twisted Helix and Industrial Affinity. It's also going to mean out in your metas, you're going to see more Space Marine lists. Space Marines definitely got a huge jump up in where if they're a viable faction or not. And a lot of people, I know at least at Tables and Towers last year, Marines were like a huge part of the meta. I mean, I played a 5-round tournament. My first 3 games were triple Redemptor, triple Contemptor, just some chapter of Marines. I don't know if we're going to go back to like that extreme, because other armies like, Tau is still very good. Harlequins are still very good. New Tyrannies are going to come out and they look ridiculous. But you're definitely going to see more Marines, which I think is an overall good thing for GSC because we play in the Marines actually pretty well. The Marines are going to be harder to kill, but the way I kind of look at that is, I mean, I played a Black Templar player with the 5-up invuln Val, and they were just that much harder to kill, and maybe you'll knock their saves to that 5-up, so you're not going to be wiping the Marine squads as as you would normally, but you're still going to make them combat ineffective. I know I charged 10 Gene Stealers into 10 Assault Intercessors for my Black Templar opponent who had the 5+ invulnerable save Val, and it didn't kill all 10 with the 50 attacks from Viper and Beyond. But that squad's not doing anything. I mean, it killed a bunch of them. The by far most thing I'm happy with is the nerf to indirect fire, where if the indirect fire is shooting at something it can't see, it's getting +1 save and -1 ballistic skill. So that means things like Tau indirect, which I don't even think they take anymore, but it's going to hit you on 5s, and you're going to get a +1 save. So their AP1 is not really counting anymore. Things like Night Spinners, which again I don't think Eldar are even going to take anymore, are just going to go down to an AP1, so you're still getting a 5-up save because you're in cover, and they're hitting you on 4s. I think the overall effect of this is just a lot less indirects going to come into the game, other than guard, but we'll talk about in a second. So I can see myself start to move away from the Pauper Princes or the Bladed Cog lists that I felt were necessary for Gene Stealer Cult to win, to just keep models on the table. I mean, I know with my Pauper Princes list over the weekend, a lot of stuff in my army, with the Primus having the Relic of St. Tendark, had that 5-up invulnerable save, and it was a lifesaver. I didn't necessarily play any indirect fire heavy lists, but I played some other lists that had a ton of shooting and a ton of close combat, and I felt like that Relic really saved me and let me keep models on the tables for all 5 turns. But now I think I'm going to move away from Pauper Princes, because while the +1 hit's really good, and the Relic is still really good, I want to try and do some other things as far as offensively with the Gene Stealer Cult, which I think this indirect nerf directly opens that up. Some people were having, pretty good success with Twisted Helix, and I love, my list had 30 Gene Stealers in it before with Pauper Princes. I love playing with the 30 Gene Stealers, and they just become that much more deadly in a Twisted Helix list at Strength 5, Movement 9, and with the mini hands Transhuman, even helps a little bit. So I think I'll start with that first, and then maybe I'll play an Industrial Affinity list, which Industrial Affinity is already, people's favorite custom cult trait. Mix that in with the auto wounding on when you roll 6s to hit. It doesn't work on vehicles or monsters, but it's fine if it works on just infantry. You have other things that can really pile into monsters. Then, pair it with a mini transhuman as your last trait, and it becomes pretty good. So overall, I'm pretty happy with how this went. We didn't get any direct buffs, but that nerf to indirect, the nerf to Tau, extra AP, and some of the other nerfs that came in, especially to Custodes, which you hardly will probably see them at all unless somebody's a really, really dedicated Custodes player, is going to help our faction overall. I saw some people complaining on the Facebook group that we didn't get anything and GSC are going to be real bad now. I just don't think that's the case. We were at right around a 50% win rate in that terrible meta, where other armies were in the 30s and 20s% win rate. So I think it just will be fine. Yeah, some of those armies are going to get pushed up, like Marines especially, but we can play our game in a Marines. We can play the objective holding game and dropping down, lying in wait, and stealing stuff from Marines. And we don't necessarily have to kill their entire army. And we can just play a points game, which is something that GSC is really, really good at. It's kind of how I looked at it over the weekend when I was playing. The one faction I'm absolutely terrified of is Astra Militarum now. My buddy plays him, and auto wounding on 6s to hit with all those last guns that did nothing basically from conscripts or whatever before, now is really, really going to hurt our fragile units. None of the indirect buffs apply to them, so all that indirect fire can still come hammering down. A really, really good guard player can screen out a GSC person because they just have enough bodies. So we'll see how that matchup goes. I'm sure I'll play him maybe as soon as next week and see how it works out. But until I play the matchup, I mean, I know how it kind of went before, so it's not really any different. I actually played guard in the last round of the tournament, and I just made use of the Gene Stealers popping out from behind terrain that they couldn't be seen and killing his units off of his objectives and then popping them back into reserve with a 1 CP strat. That was extremely effective to keep my units on the table because he can't target them after they go back underground. So next week I'll be playing some practice games against new Space Marines and the new guard rules, although just the extra shooting, I guess, not new, they just get the better indirect. And we'll see how it goes. I'll probably play a Twisted Helix list with something like 30 Gene Stealers, a bunch of neophytes to hold objectives because you still need to survive on the table and steal primary from your opponent. And we'll see how it goes. I'm really excited to get out there in the new tournaments in this less indirect heavy meta. So let me know how your guys' games went, if you can get some games in before I will next week, and how you're playing in the new Marines and especially guard, which I think are going to be gross in a Gene Stealer call. Good luck out there, guys, and we'll see you next time.